topic today is Max Weber, who I find absolutely fascinating. And I'm actually going to talk about Max Weber in three parts. I'm going to talk about Max in part A. I'm going to give some background information about him in this video. Then I'm going to talk about his thoughts on bureaucracy. And then I'm going to talk about his thoughts on leadership. Max Weber was an economist, sociologist, a philosopher. He lived from 1864 to 1920. I'm asking my German friend Kevin how to pronounce this name.
Guten Tag, Steve. Greetings to the UAEU. In German, we pronounce the name Max Weber. He's best known for the Protestantismus-Kapitalismus these.
As an American, we'd see this name and think his name is Max Weber. It's really Weber. He was a German economist, sociologist, philosopher. He lived from 1864 to 1920. And I consider this interesting. Max Weber died in 1920. He died in 1920 from the Spanish flu, which was the pandemic 100 years ago that was as serious as the COVID-19 pandemic has been in this century. So it's kind of interesting, or sad, or whatever. He died at only 56. Ugh. Max Weber's dad was a partier, and his mom was strictly religious. Dad liked to drink and do not good things, and mom was very religious and strict. When Max Weber was young, he thought his dad had it right. He thought his dad, in being a partier and being a guy who loved life, that his dad had it right. And when he got older, he came to believe that his mother, who was strictly religious, had it right. And sadly for Max, he and his dad fought over this, and his dad died before he was able to make peace with his father. And that then led Max to have depression issues for the rest of his life, because he never made that peace with his father. Max Weber was insanely smart. No question about it. Because he was so insanely smart, he was not a good student. Meaning, he knew more about what's going on in the world than his teachers knew. And so he was like, why am I taking a class from you? You don't know as much as I know. And even though he had good teachers, his teachers probably realized he was smarter than them, and so they didn't like him either. Another interesting thing about this guy is that he knew that if what he believed was followed correctly, it would make us less human. If that evolution of everything eventually makes us less human. What does it mean to be less human? Is that possible, to be less human? And so I'm going to use some examples of today's world to explain what he means here. When you go to an ATM and take money out, that's a way for you to access money that in the past you'd have to go to a bank to do that, and you'd have to interact with a human being. So now by using an ATM, you don't have to interact with a human being. In that way, you're having less human interaction. When you have home delivery of things, you are having less human interaction. That may make your life better, but Max Weber would also say it makes you less human. You're not having the human interaction. He would look at all of the creature comforts, electricity, running water, everything that makes your life better also in some ways makes you less human. Because when you didn't have these things, then you had to work with other people and live the human experience. But now you could spend a week locked in your room, not having any physical contact with other human beings, but talking on Zoom, communicating on Instagram or Snap or Facebook or so forth. And Weber would say, yes, that's fantastic, you can communicate all these ways, but does that actually make you human? He would argue it's great and it's horrible at the same time. So why I love studying Max Weber? Because he is very complex. He changed his views on a lot of things he followed his dad. He thought his dad was right when he was a child, and when he became older, he thought his mom was right. And he changed his views on many things as he aged in life. A couple of years ago, I visited Munich, his hometown. Actually, it wasn't where he was born, but it's where his adopted hometown. And I took pictures of Max Weber plots because I was like, ooh, I can go see where Max Weber, whatever. They had nothing there. All they had was this sign, the subway sign. And by the way, I was looking for anything that memorialized Max Weber, and there was nothing there. And while I was looking for it, this guy came by on a bike. I want to keep this a family-friendly video, but man, what they allow people to wear in public in Germany, yeah, you couldn't wear that anywhere in America, and you certainly couldn't wear that anywhere here in the UAE. The last reason that I find Max Weber interesting is that one of my first jobs I ever had was teaching swimming lessons, okay? And that, in terms of personal fulfillment, I love teaching swimming lessons more than any other job I've ever had. And here's why. When you take somebody who's scared of the water, when you take a child who's scared of the water, and you make them, teach them how not to be scared in the water, teach them to love the water and love back floating and how to do basic strokes. When you can teach a child to do those things, that made me feel better about my life than any job I've had since then. You can argue that I reach more students, reach more people, have a bigger impact teaching management, teaching at the UAEU, teaching at a university. But in terms of what made me feel good, teaching swimming was more fulfilling because I got to help a child not be afraid of the water. And that means more to me, honestly, than teaching this class. And I know, given Weber's philosophy, he would agree that teaching a child to swim is more important than teaching management or philosophy or whatever. It is my hope that you find Max Weber to be an interesting guy. I know I do.